A stone mountain rises out of red earth, tier upon tier, a stairway for kings. No jungle bird dares to cry as the wind combs the laterite blocks, and the silence asks a question older than Angkor itself. Who steals a capital from an empire, builds a pyramid in the forest, and dares the gods to bless it? Tonight, we go to Koh Ker, the city that pulled the crown off Angkor's head and wore it, briefly, brilliantly, like a comet crossing a royal sky. If you've always pictured the Khmer Empire as a single story orbiting Angkor Wat, you're missing the plot twist. Because for nearly 2 decades in the 10th century, the heartbeat of the kingdom moved here, to a place once called Lingapura, the city of the Linga, where a stepped pyramid, 7 terraces high, cut a new axis between earth and heaven. This is the tale of a king with a dangerous dream. Sculptures that look alive even when broken, reservoirs that made a desert bloom, and a throne that changed hands in the shadow of a forest mountain. Welcome to Pyramid That Stole Angkor, Koh Ker. Stand at the base of the pyramid and look up. The tiers pull your gaze toward the sky, each step a drumbeat, each block a breath. The laterite core is skinned with sandstone, sun-warmed, dust-sweet, and the staircase climbs like a challenge. This is Prang, the stepped temple at the heart of the Prasat Thom complex, a man-made mountain that refuses to be ignored. Around you, ruins in long queues, towers aligned on a single royal axis, causeways edged with guardian lions, doorframes still whispering with ancient script. Beyond the stone, the forest swells and recedes like a green sea. Where once stood barays, massive water reservoirs, glittering like mirrors for the sky. The place feels both deliberate and improbable. How did this happen here? To explain a pyramid in the forest, you have to tell a story of power, distance, and audacity. In the early 900s, a royal prince became a king, but not the kind content to inherit a seat and sit still. He is known to us as Jayavarman IV. Instead of ruling from Angkor, the traditional heartland, he sets his court northeast, deep into what is now Preah Vihear province. To a new royal city he builds almost from scratch. To some, it looked like a rebellion. To others, a rebalancing. To Jayavarman, it was destiny. Why move? Politics, geography, and a vision of the sacred. Angkor was powerful, yes, but it was also a web of rival elites, priests, and old expectations. Koh Ker, Lingapura, was far, fertile, and flush with timber, iron, and roots to the mountains. Here, the king could concentrate power, draft labor without competing temples tugging at his sleeve, and create a huge, unmistakable symbol of legitimacy. That symbol would not be a flat temple, not a quiet shrine tucked into rice fields, but a stepped pyramid, a mountain in stone, a beacon to gods and men. And he would wrap the city around it with a speed that still shocks archaeologists, like a thunderclap that doesn't wait for rain. Imagine the logistics. Tens of thousands of workers, quarrying sandstone, shaping laterite, raising gates, taming water. The plan reads like a straight line you could set your compass on, a king's axis. Start with a long ceremonial causeway, punctuate it with towered gateways, anchor it with Prasat Thom, a temple complex of enclosures and ponds culminating in the stepped Prang. To feed the city, build barays, great reservoirs that catch the monsoon and release it in the dry months. Water was not just utility here, it was theology. In Khmer royal cosmology, The king anchors Mount Meru, the cosmic mountain, and his city becomes a map of the universe. The barays are oceans. The temple tiers are the peaks. The processions are the orbits of stars. At the pyramid summit, a shrine once held a royal linga, the sacred pillar of Shiva, so large and so charged with meaning that the city itself took the god's symbol as its name. Priests climbed with offerings. Drums rolled like thunder. Conches cried like distant birds. And the king met the sky at the highest terrace. The message to rival courts was simple. The axis now runs through me. Koh Ker didn't just move the court, it moved the style. If Angkor's sculptures often feel serene, Koh Ker's look like they've just landed mid-stride. Heroes twist, monkeys leap, gods flex. The Koh Ker style is bold, dynamic, athletic, shadows caught in stone. Even in fragments unearthed from roots and laterite, you sense motion frozen at its most dramatic point. Think of a guardian Garuda with wings curling forward like a storm. Think of Hanuman, the monkey general, poised as if to spring. Think of a warrior prince whose stance whispers, "Step closer if you dare." The chisels here didn't just carve anatomy. They carved force, the moment before impact, the breath before the shout. That energy tells you something about the city that made it. This was a court in a hurry, staking a claim with visual power. You don't build a 7-tier pyramid and then whisper in stone. You speak loud. You make statues that radiate presence. You make art that feels inevitable. But dreams have ledgers, and temples have receipts. To erect a capital so quickly, the court levied labor and rice from wide regions, drove the caravans of stone and timber, and pulled specialists from every corner of the realm. Inscriptions talk about land grants to temples, about rice fields measured by the 1,000, about offerings of oil, cloth, and cattle. The city was not a weekend project. It was a state-sized decision. Was Jayavarman IV a usurper or a reformer? The answer depends on the stone you ask. At Koh Ker, he is the world's axis. At Angkor, a problem to be solved. But even critics had to admit the scale. In roughly a generation, a wilderness platformed a throne. A throne crowned a pyramid, and the pyramid crowned the king. The very speed became part of the message. Only a rightful king could command this much this fast. And yet, speed slices both ways. What is quickly made can be quickly unmade, especially when the currents of succession change direction after Jayavarman IV's death and the brief rule of his successor. The center of gravity drifted back toward Angkor. New kings, new alliances, old gravitational pull. The royal road home was shorter than the road out. By the mid-10th century, the court returned to the floodplains and reservoirs westward, to rebuild the old heart, to lace new canals across the rice country, to write fresh chapters on familiar pages. And Koh Ker, it did not vanish, but it exhaled. Priests still tended shrines. Villagers still fished ponds. Elephants still shouldered logs along the old routes. But the drumbeat quieted. Without a constant royal presence, the pyramid became less a throne and more a memory in stone, a mountain left standing after the weather changes. On maps of power, the line thickened again around Angkor, but in the forest, the stepped tiers watched the seasons turn, patient, almost amused. The pyramid had already done its work, proved a capital could be stolen, proved that kingship was portable if your vision was heavy enough to carry. Centuries rolled, vines thickened, lintels cracked. Rain rehearsed its long percussion on sandstone. When colonial surveyors finally pushed into this region, they found a city both open and guarded. Corridors swallowed by silk cotton roots. Laterite walls leaning like old men. Inscriptions chipped but still legible when the light was right. One called this place the Solitude of Titans. Another whispered a capital asleep with its eyes open. The modern age brought roads, and with roads came looting. Sculptures, still muscled with that Koh Ker energy, were hacked from pedestals, smuggled to private collections, then into glossy catalogs on the other side of the world. Some of those pieces, famous warriors, dancers, divine guardians, have since been repatriated, the journeys home wearing the dust of courtrooms rather than forest trails. Others remain missing, their absences like broken teeth in a royal smile. For decades, this region also hid a more lethal legacy, landmines laid in late 20th century wars, slowing both archaeology and tourism. Step by step, the mines have been cleared, villages rebuilt, and the site opened more safely to the world. Today, as guides point to the tiers and tell the forest's secret, you can feel two timelines crossing, old sovereignty in stone and new sovereignty in memory. Ask 10 scholars why this pyramid was built, and you'll get 12 answers, each glinting like a different facet of the same jewel. Theory 1. The pyramid is a state mountain, a vertical axis for the Devaraja cult, where the king, as earthly pivot of the god Shiva, ascends the terraces during rituals to fuse cosmology with government. The 7 tiers mirror the layers of heaven. The summit shrine houses a linga that is not just a symbol, but a claim. I am the keeper of the world's center. Theory 2. The pyramid is political architecture, a billboard in stone broadcasting legitimacy. Drag the court into the forest, and you'd better give everyone a reason to travel with you. A mountain is a good reason. It says, this is not temporary, this is not a camp, this is capital. Theory 3. The pyramid is strategic, a raised eye over roads and reservoirs, a ceremonial platform that doubles as a vantage and rallying point in a region dense with resources and routes. The beauty is, these theories don't cancel each other. Koh Ker can be theological at sunrise, political at noon, strategic at dusk. Architecture this big rarely serves one purpose. It serves power, whichever shape power takes that day. And those alignments you notice, avenues that point like arrows, doorways that frame distant towers, causeways that pull you forward as if by gravity. Whether solar, sacred, or symbolic, they make the same promise. Order in a world that loves to drift. Let's walk it, slowly, like a procession without drums. You enter via the long causeway, laterite underfoot, the air resin sweet from trees warming in the light. Ahead, a Gopura gateway, a frame inside the forest. Beyond it, the first enclosure of Prasat Thom, ponds on either side holding sky like held breath. Then another gate, another narrowing of the world, until at last the forest parts and the pyramid lifts, stone stacked upon stone, as if the land had decided to grow stairs. To your left and right, satellite sanctuaries, small towers like courtiers holding their breath in the royal hall. Carvings lean toward stories, gods and warriors, dancers and demons, edges softened by centuries of rain but still sharp under your fingers where shadow hides. At the base of the pyramid, lions on plinths glare down 1,000 years with unspent courage. Climb. The staircase is steep, no room for hesitation. Halfway up, turn and look back. The axis you walked now takes you in reverse, gate through gate through gate, until the forest swallows the last doorway, and you are alone with sky. At the summit, the shrine once held the king's linga, gone now, but the emptiness carries weight. You feel wind, you hear leaves, and you understand why rulers build high places. Perspective is a drug. Here's the paradox. Koh Ker failed, and yet it succeeded. The capital moved back to Angkor. The court reknit its ties in the old heartland. The pyramid ceased to be a throne. By ordinary measures, that's a loss. But look harder, and you see what Koh Ker proved. It showed that the Khmer state was agile, able to mobilize materials, men, and meaning across long distances. It showed that legitimacy could be made, not just inherited, made with architecture, ritual, and water. It taught later kings what could be done when the will is sharp and the message clear. And for us, Koh Ker is a teacher of another kind. It warns that maps are lies of habit, that empires are more like weather than walls, that a capital can uproot, that a pyramid can rise where your textbooks forgot to look. In the 21st century, visitors arrive with drones and day packs. Monks in saffron pause at railings to taste the wind. Schoolchildren count the tears out loud like a game. The village economy is waking. The road dust is a little less lonely. And the local guides tell the same story in a dozen accents, each adding a detail about a looted statue returned, a festival reborn, a landmine field finally cleared. The site is not just a ruin. It's a relationship slowly repaired. Art historians speak of Koh Ker style with a softness usually reserved for people. They show slides where torsos twist like athletes, where garments cling like water, where a smile is more a challenge than a greeting. Museums rewrite labels. Repatriation teams pass crates like relics, and somewhere in a warehouse, a pair of stone feet still waits for its upper half to come home. Meanwhile, the pyramid keeps its watch. Rain will keep practicing its slow music on the steps. Lizards will blink like green punctuation on sunlit stones. And the wind will keep its secret truce with the trees. If the pyramid could speak in our courts, it would say, "I was not built to be safe. I was built to be seen." If the statues could testify, they would say, "We were not posed to be pretty. We were posed to be powerful." If the barays could write affidavits, they would say, "We collected more than water. We collected loyalty." And if the forest could cross-examine us, it would ask, "What capitals are you so sure will never move? What centers are you certain will never shift? What mountains are you building? And for whom?" In the end, Koh Ker did steal Angkor, not forever, but long enough to prove a truth that empires hate to hear. The crown sits where the will is strongest. For nearly a generation, the world's axis in the Khmer mind passed through a pyramid in a forest. And the gods did not object. When you leave, walk the axis one more time, from summit to step, step to gate, gate to causeway, causeway to road. Turn back at the last bend and look. The tears will be half vanished by leaves, the lions small, the forest loud again. But if you listen, beneath the cicadas and the wind, you might hear the echo of a procession you were never part of. Drums, conch, footfalls in time, and a king climbing toward a sky that was briefly his. This was Koh Ker. This was the pyramid that stole Angkor,